land. Yes, we was here first. They came here on a boat. They'll leave here in a hearse. They'll leave here through the dirt. They're going through the earth. We're channeling their ancestors to undo their curse. Cause once upon a time, we all could read and write. That legalese is lies. Strong men spell cursive ties. Strong men all caps disguise. They've gentrified our lives. We've redefined their sights. We've redefined their kind. Yes, this is juju music. This shit here is voodoo music. This shit here is voodoo music. When you chant, they gonna lose it. Yes, this is juju music. This shit here is voodoo music. Yes, this shit is voodoo music. When you chant, they gonna lose it. When you chant, they gonna lose. Which ancestor you gon' choose? Play their game, but by our rules. I'm Queen Annie the Maroon. I am Queen of Dongo. I am Queen of Zinga. I am Yenaga. I'm Carlotta and Fermina. Cause this is juju music. This shit here is voodoo music. When you chant, they gonna lose. Which ancestor you gon' choose? Cause this is juju music. This shit here is voodoo music. When you chant, they gonna lose. Which ancestor you gon' choose? Cause I am a goddess. I am a priestess. I chant these mantras and they all repeat it. If we make a promise, this land we gon' seize it. Get vengeance for Mother Earth treason. This for the gentrifiers. This for the gentrifiers. This for the gentrifiers. This for the gentrifiers. Repetition of empires. Invading land with gunfire. Slavery not posters for hire. Income not what you desire. Outcome working jobs for hours. Mindset waiting to retire. Never stop working for dollars. Cause this is juju music. This shit here is voodoo music. Which ancestor you gon' choose? When you chant, they gonna lose. Cause this is juju music. This shit here is voodoo music. Which ancestor we gon' choose? When we chant, they gonna lose. Ashe, I mean. My spirit guides come in with that sin. My ancestors defend. I got that juice to transcend. Ashe, I mean. My spirit guides come in with that sin. My ancestors. I got that juice to transcend. Cause I am a Santi, I am a Sata, I am a host, I am a homie, I am a Tamba. Yes, I am a Tamba. Cause I am a Santi, I am a Sata, I am a host, I am a homie, I am a Tamba. Yes, I am a Tamba. Yes, this is juju music. This shit here is voodoo music. When we chant, they gonna lose. Which ancestor we gon' choose? Hey, choose. Cause when we chant, they gonna lose. Which ancestor we gon' choose?
Mess with the wrong witch, and she knows it. And now you know it.
Hey, Sunshine Monet with the affirmations to enjoy your day with Sunshine Monet.
You are listening to Chakra Music.
I came through with intentions of destruction. You said you wanted freedom, well it's me then that you wanted. I moved in gratitude as my soul was being summoned. The consciousness has returned, Christ is really coming. I make these flows for the souls that drenched in indigo. I made some goals for they glow since they was embryos. Access the records, they lectures, keep your principles. Enemies infect you, don't let them reach your pinnacles. Reversing curses that's embedded in religions. They wound up in your soul, that's why you feel tension. I'm remixing declensions before Sumerians existed. It's something in the water, don't get caught, you'll get acidic. I bury enemies, pay pinnacles to the witness. You say my name in threes, I appear in your vision. Bring Iliads in me, I'm the witcher in your system. Silly as can be, there's no opposite in infinite. I'm the goddess of crossroads, touching all directions. With the skull and crossbones that call to the vexers. I applaud the protectors, I'm the god of inflection. They see the demon in me and still pause the respecters. I need no translation, vibrating from universe. My throat mansplaining while my yoni do the work. Mask off, crowns on, bombshell on all the arts. Mask off, crowns on, bombshell on all the arcs. Mask off, crowns on, bombshell on all the arcs. Mask off, crowns on, bombshell on all the arcs.
In not seven profit, move like the full winds do. My energy is useful, my thoughts are old school. So I move with a Bob Slim. Say I'm sexy, haircut like Anita Baker, real lovely. Caught up in the rapture, it's kinda risque. Kisses and faces on public is real frisky. Touche.
You are listening to Chakra Music.
Mask off.
Peace, y'all. Welcome to the Cosmic Nobodies Conversation with your girl, Sunshine Monet L. It's the best pop-up podcast ever. I'm so excited today. I get to talk to another new Cosmic Nobody. This individual is, well, I see his title, so I'm just gonna read what I read. A social scientist as well as a filmmaker, creating a lot of different videos that you guys can find on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram in regards to the beginning of human civilization, on being Black, explaining the different I guess segments, because the mindset is that Black people are not monolithic, right? So we have different subgroups of our beliefs and what we represent and where we think we're from and what. And I'm not going to get too much in detail because I want y'all to hear it straight from the individual who has done the research and did the work and made the videos and everything like that. So without further ado, we're going to bring Che Blak to the stage.
Peace.
Press play for applause. Peace, love. Welcome. So, feel free to introduce yourself and also let us know, what is your mission statement?
My mission statement is to challenge what's been taught, to challenge the thought, and to let us realize, because I'm a researcher, and I'm not just a researcher, I'm an investigative researcher. So the more and more I research into certain things, the more and more my mind evolves, the more I realize, when you come into something with a conviction as far as knowing something, it's not always gonna the research is not always gonna go along with what your conviction is, and you have to be willing to accept that. And so as a researcher, my whole thing is basically, I like the whole cosmic nobodies because we know nothing. And that's my mission statement.
Absolutely is mine. I know nothing, but I think a lot of things. I'm always thinking.
Indeed.
And you said that your research sometimes, is opposite of what your perspective is or your point of view is. Give us an example. What's one thing that you've researched that changed like your whole mindset about something that you thought?
The theory of evolution. I at one point in time was I disregarded it and altogether. I altogether completely just disregarded it. And and a lot of it has to do with how it was taught to us and what it was taught. But we were just talking, and we can't deny the evidence that's there. The evidence is irrefutable. All the humanids that we have. How can you not, at least acknowledge the existence of these beings? So that was one thing.
That's a good one. That's actually something that I'm covering. I was speaking to you before. I'm taking a biology class, and I agree. The way that evolution was taught to us, being like solely fixated on Darwin and Darwinism, I think it created like this. First of all, it created a mindset that no scientist has ever tried to challenge Darwin, and whatever he said was set in stone. And that's not entirely true, especially in the realms of evolution. There are a couple scientists that kind of expanded on his thought to make that thought of evolution sound, the theory of evolution actually sound more sound to me to adopt, just like having the endosymbiotic, I guess somewhat of an ecosystem as your cellular structure, even down to that, your organelles actually being bacteria, prokaryotes actually coming together, and then the concept that we came from a prokaryote. It just all makes sense. I won't spiral too long. So
talked about your mission statement and things of that nature. Now, you're a social scientist. That's what I saw under your title. Could you break that down? What
That's
exactly is a
something
social scientist?
that's funny because that's something that a friend of mine used to call me, one of my neighbors. So
Okay.
I really actually got that from her. My neighbor Rose. She actually used to always call me that because of the conversations we would have and the way I would sit on my porch and just analyze everything and come up with different breakdowns of what's going on in front of us. That's kind of a title that she gave me, and I thought it was a dope title, so I kind of ran with it, the social scientist, because you know uh, that's what I deal in. You know, the science of 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 like what we doing right now, the science of communication, the science of society, the science of everyday life, and just how we relate. And I mean, basically, this all goes back to not knowing nothing and accepting that.
Mm-hmm.
And challenging what we think we know. I always like to challenge what I think we know.
I can
If
agree
that
with
makes
that.
any sense to you.
That makes all the sense to me. That makes all the sense to me. I'm always here for a challenge on what my thoughts are. And so what sparked your interest into, like, I guess, breaking down energy exchanges and how people communicate and interact with one another?
I think it's just been, just been. It came from being so heavily convicted in my beliefs, and for so many years, and then every few years I would come across some type of information or something would happen that would I would evolve, or what do they say when you reinvent yourself? I would kind of reinvent my own thoughts every few years, and then um it got to a point where I stopped falling into these convictions with my thoughts. I stopped falling into this. I know this. I used to have these debates, right, based on science with people. I was known for this. One of the big things, I used to love to debate people who believed that the earth was flat, right? This was
Mm.
something I used to love to debate this and break it down with science and, give all these explanations. However, I came to the realization that even though I don't subscribe to that theory, I don't have a spaceship. And because I don't have a spaceship, everything that I'm telling them is based off of someone else's research, someone else's demonstration, and me, cross referencing what this one said, what that one said, what this demonstration came up with. And at the end of the day, how can I honestly say I know something that's being told to me? Period. Like it just, how can I mean, I can say that this makes the most sense based off of the evidence presented. But to say that I know something, nah, we good.
My apologies. Go ahead.
But yeah, but like I was just saying, to say we know something, I think I might have lost my train of thought.
Trying to do backstage and on stage stuff at the same time.
Nah, I
But
can
I
dig it.
agree
I know
with
how that goes.
I agree with you saying, as far as because that was the next question I was going to ask you. What is your research method? And reading about what a lot of other people's experiences and their thoughts and their experiments and stuff like that, it's like I'm one of those kind of people that, like, you could tell me the fire is hot, but I gotta touch it. I gotta experience it. It gotta be a part of my experimentation, or otherwise I can to be like, well, somebody told me it was hot. I don't know. It might be, and it might not be hot for you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Um, I've always been one of those kind of people, so I definitely agree with that. That thought of, we don't really know anything, and paying attention to, like, how life is today. There are some people who do live in a reality where they have so much time to do all the research and exploration. That's something that I would love to do, to be an explorer and go dig things up myself and open up artifacts and read books and things like that. But it's like, with what time and with what
Right.
resources? And so, in my personal opinion, I think it's by design that, the average individuals aren't allotted time and space to do those things, to come up to their own conclusions and stuff. It's only for certain, special folks in their own way, or you make your own reality, whatever, what have you. Personally, because psychology is my thing. I love it here. I love listening to people's points of view, their psyche, how they think things are, and their behavior. I remember as a kid, like my aunt used to watch Animal Planet all the time. And one day I asked her, I was like, why are you always watching like animal behavior and stuff like that? And she told me, she was like, because it seems like animals always have a reason for the things that they do, but humans don't. And this was her point of view. And I just found that so intriguing because I was always a people watcher, and I was always in the room with adults and listening to them. And for some reason, adults always felt comfortable telling me their business. And, that's just been my life, ever since then, which is why I do, ministry and spiritual counseling now, because it's like, it must be my calling. But I always paid attention to people's behaviors, and because once she said that, I was determined to prove her wrong. Like, there has to be a reason why people do certain things. Like, it has to come from somewhere. So that's always been like the basis of, I guess, my observations and my research and things is, why'd you just do that? Why'd you think that was okay? Even now as a substitute teacher, especially for 8th graders, they do like the craziest things, and I'll stop them and I'll be like, now, why did you just do that? Like, seriously, like what just happened in your brain that made you think that was like the thing to do right here, right now? I never really get an answer, but I always, think about things like that. So for people who have never watched your YouTube channel, your videos, anything like that, if you could describe like the style of your presentations, your films and things like that, like, describe your production of things to, to someone who has never watched you.
Oh wow, let me see. My style, I mean, I'm kind of still, to me, evolving always. I'm always looking to see what I think works. But as far as my style, I guess I'm not trying to pretend I'm anything I'm not. So you're not about to watch nothing from me and you hear me put on my professor voice and go into the dictionary. I mean, I could do that if I wanted to, but that's not who I am. So I'm, when you hear me speaking, you're gonna get me. You're gonna get, how it is. So I guess my style would be like I'm a pill, right? I'm a pill of some good, very good medicine, but I'm palatable. Is that the right word? See, there's me. I don't even using words, but I'm palatable to those who might not have been wanting the stuff that I'm putting out. I think that I'm trying to make it palatable to those who might not wouldn't have paid attention to this.
Okay. That's good.
And
Because I know some
visually.
people who like approach it with a very aggressive, assertive, and I've noticed that in your videos, like it's giving like documentaries. I always was like, bro, why are people always telling our stories? Always some random dude from the UK, and I get the same kind of I get the same kind of vibe. Like, I'm watching, like, this is a documentary. I could, listen to you narrate, and the visuals and everything, I think is beautifully put together.
Another thing is, well, now more or less, I'm finding my niche as far as in the narration, the narration part. I had to kind of find my way with the narration. Because a lot of the beginning was me looking at, like, knowing the story and having it all in my mind and looking at notes and then laying everything out and then just recording myself looking at the stuff and remember, like, going through a slideshow and just, just going off head from the slideshow that I done set up. And I mean, it's a lot of editing, that causes for a lot of editing because there's a lot of, I might say something or I might make a mistake, or I try not to use profanity, and sometimes I might get caught up in the moment. And so I try to keep it, to a certain degree. But so now I'm more like following the script more. As before, I knew what I was talking about, and so I kind of just tried to drop it to keep it feeling like I was just talking and not reading. But I can read pretty good, so that's not a problem.
I see, I see. Well, you put it together very nicely. What was the first project you ever put together?
Oh, well, the first project on my own, because I started in school and just putting it, I started this in school and doing like, videos and working with the school news. Um, like we had the little school news and the TV with all of that. But the first project, I started doing music videos. So the first real project I did on my own was some music videos that I was working on for other people. And then, just it wasn't nothing that I wanted to do. Not saying I didn't want like the music, I didn't like the music. What I mean is it wasn't my work. I was filming stuff for other people. My first project in more recent years would be the series I was working on, How the Earth Was Civilized. As far as a project, I did a documentary for a brother Tahir RBG called Fear of a Black Planet, based on, which is the same name of the Public Enemy album, but it was based on an event in Oakland that I attended with him. I filmed the event and all of the behind the scenes, and we put it together and made it a little documentary. That was a few years back.
Okay. And what was the interest, like how did that get sparked for you? What made you say, you know what, I'm gonna put this together and I'm gonna put it out there?
Which that, the How the Earth was
Yeah.
became the research that I had, the videos that I've been watching on YouTube and seeing a lot of the crazy information that was being put out there without any type of reference or any type of evidence, or just, people just saying stuff. And I'm seeing how it was being like people were really getting into this. And it's like, okay, well, let me at least try to bring things to a where there's at least evidence. Try to put out something where people could tell me, yo, I came behind you with research. I referenced this, or I had you made me look this up, so that they know at least I wasn't out there just talking, just making up stuff. So I think it had to do with a lot of misinformation that I was looking at, or that I perceived to be misinformation. It's the irony of it is, though, I actually ended the series after 3 episodes. I had a 4th and a 5th episode already lined up. But after the 3rd episode, the research that I had started getting into, it was like the biggest rabbit hole I ever experienced. And it was like, I'll be studying for the next 10 years before I do the next project on that. Like, that's how it started to become, So I said, let me just stay in my studies, but let me put this on hold right now, because I don't want to be putting out information that I got to come back behind and start cleaning up.
So all right, so you started the How Civilization Was Made. What was your mindset what was some of the triggers, or did you have any triggers while doing that research?
Okay, we were talking about evolution, and the original one was how white people came about, basically, because I thought that was I thought that was just something interesting, because scientifically, what's the explanation of a human being going from looking like me, even though I'm not the darkest brother out there, but still looking like me, having hair like me, to looking like white boy Bob. And so that was, I wanted to try to give an explanation scientifically of how that was even possible. And that's what sparked that. And as I was doing that, because initially I wasn't going to do a whole How to Earth, but as I was working on that, I'm like, man, all of these old civilizations, and like it would be dope to just talk about these civilizations and how they all are connected from one civilization to the other and intertwined, and how they was established and started. And I thought that would have been dope. And so that's what made me continue and turn it into a series.
Okay. I think it's a very dope series and a very necessary one to hear from someone who is more, I guess, I don't know how to word it. I hear it in my head though, but I don't want to sound ignorant about it. But it's nice to hear it from a black person instead of
I can dig it.
white
I
person
can
all the
dig it.
time in layman's terms.
I can dig it though. It's better to hear from one of us that
Yeah.
sounds relatable to one of us.
Right, right. And it kind of like adds to the validity of certain things because, a lot of the evolution theories and research and everything was also moved around racism, you know. So to hear it from a black person kind of like dispels a little bit of that, you know, and that's cool.
But when we deal
Um
in science, real quick, I don't mean to cut you, but when we talk in
I-
science, a lot of times what we're talking theories based on evidence. And the theory with the strongest evidence is usually the theory that we run with. And I say usually because it's not like there aren't political agendas when we're talking about science. It's not like people don't look up things just to try to find something and they find what they don't want to find. It's nothing to close something, hide something, burn a library if necessary. These are practices
right,
that are very common throughout history. So even when we talk about science, and science is not this infallible, you know, sorcery or whatever we can go to. That's always science is what the consensus agree on. This is like a fact, and this is why we can learn more things. There was a time where they believed nothing was smaller than an atom, and next thing you know, they're saying, "Ah, we can break an atom, we can split an atom." So science is what the consensus agrees on at the time, and being mindful of that is mindful that it's subject to change. And we're talking about theory. We're not talking about in science is very, very little, very rarely you'll hear the term proof. It's very rare you'll hear the term proof in real science because you're really not dealing with proof. We're dealing with what the evidence suggests.
agree. Because you have statistics, you have the analytics, but then you still have certain areas where it's gray or percentages of other things, and the Punnett square is applicable not just to genetics, to results as well. So I definitely agree with you on that, and that's also something that I I would have enjoyed more listening to when I was in, like grade school and things like that, is hearing like, these are theories, this is what a theory is, you know, these are theorists, this is their process, you can do it too. It wasn't too much of a you can do it too and here's why. It was more so like these are people, this is what they discovered, these are their theories, regurgitate, and this is what we follow and that's it. You know what I'm saying? So I think that if it was more so introduced in a way that, and I didn't start getting introduced to it in that way that we're speaking on until I was in college and being around college professors that of course they're grooming scientists. You have biology majors and stuff like that, so of course they're going to teach it that way. So it was just like, oh wow, like okay, cool, this is something that we can do. It's something, it is possible to refute a well-known theory with certain analysis, or just say that it's not 100%. But fast forward to your projects, I want to get into so next topic. I'm aware that Black people are not monolithic, and I saw you did a video on FBAs. Now I'm new to the acronym. I was looking, I was like, what the hell is FBA? I started seeing that like a few weeks ago. So the fact that I saw one of your videos that had it, I was like, what it like it's foundational Black American. Okay, cool. But what is the backstory to FBA, and how is that? What's your stance on that with Pan Africanism, and you have people that say I'm not from Africa at all. I'm indigenous to America, and all these different rhetorics of who we are, where we come from, etc., etc.
Well, I don't tell people where they're from. So if somebody wants to tell me they're from Mars, you're from Mars, brother. It's just that
Respect.
simple. You want to tell me your grandmother said that y'all was Sioux Indians, brother, you're a Sioux Indian. Fine. that's you. As far as FBA goes, the whole idea of FBA, and for anybody FBA, I don't want to, I don't, you know, I already get bad. They already come at me as it is basically, you know, would be me. I would technically, under the ideology, if they claim it's a lineage, but under the ideology, I would fall under that lineage because my roots go back to American chattel slavery.
Okay.
And because of that, you know, my family didn't migrate from the Caribbeans in the 50s or 60s or whatever the case, or come from Africa after slavery. They were here during slavery, and you know, my ancestry is from all over the place. But with the FBA idea, the problem with the FBA, because their whole idea is based on autonomy and delineation from the diaspora. And the problem that I have with that is that Black Americans, African Americans, whatever you want to, whatever term you want to be comfortable with, because that's another thing. I'm not going to argue with you about what term you're comfortable with. But Black Americans or African Americans have always had autonomy from the diaspora. Everybody knows who we are. And if someone said a Black American, they're not talking about somebody who came from Jamaica and lives in America. They're not talking about a Haitian. They're talking about the descendants of American slavery, period, or the people who went through that. That's what they're talking about. Who've been here, who were part of the Mayafa, the transatlantic slave trade. Period. That's what they're talking about. So delineation, the word delineate, which just means just that. It means um to differentiate. It means to I'm trying to remember the exact word, but it's basically saying, you know, to individualize. Delineate means to individualize. And the fact that that's the people feel the need to do that is kind of bizarre to me. To me, it's more than just a need to delineate, because we are already delineated. We are already, people already recognize us as an individual. So that
Right.
argument is kind of silly to me. And it's odd that it's coming at the time that it's coming at. And it's basically a lot of xenophobia, in my opinion. You know, it's
Okay.
just my opinion. There's a lot of xenophobia involved, and it's basically it's an attack, a direct attack on Pan-Africanism. And I don't necessarily identify myself as a Pan-Africanist. I was raised as a Pan-Africanist. My father was a Pan-Africanist. But I absolutely adhered to the principles of Pan-Africanism, because I really understand what Pan-Africanism truly is. And
Mhm.
so the attack on Pan-Africanism, and the attack claiming that Africans amongst the diaspora, whether it's in the Caribbean, whether it's in South America, whether it's in Africa, whether it's in Europe, that other Africans of the diaspora don't participate in Pan-Africanism or the American plight. And the problem with that, because on a large scale, this statement is not incorrect. But the problem with that is, how many Black Americans adhere to Pan-Africanism or the plight of Black people in America and have fought for social justice? Like, what is the percentages of Black people that will be considered quote unquote conscious, if you really want to get technical? I mean, if you are the kind, like, unless you was raised in a family like that, you're the black sheep in your family for the most part when you come home talking about Black power, Pan-Africanism, or any of this Marcus Garvey stuff. So to be upset with other nations because those nations aren't filled up with people who are on some Patrice Lumumba, Malcolm X vibe is ridiculous, because that's not even most of us. The whole
Right.
idea is to find those who are like-minded and connect and link, because we know that we are few. And we need to recognize, okay, I got a connection in Jamaica, and them brothers in Jamaica is just as lost as these brothers over here. But I know about 5 or 10 that I can link up with over there, because they on it like the 20 or 30 brothers that I know over here. You see what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
this is where I find the problem with the ideal of FBA, because you can be a proud, you can be proud that we've created so many things, which we have as Black Americans, African Americans. We created almost everything you can name that comes out of America in the last, since America was existed. But that doesn't mean that we are not part of the diaspora, and that Pan-Africanism needs to be attacked. There's no need to it. Like, you can be proud without attacking Pan-Africanism. And that's the thing that I find funny. I find it funny that, it's beyond just announcing that I'm a Black American with Black American roots, or whatever, which is silly. But that's what you want to do. It's a weird sense of patriotism all of a sudden. Black people, America doesn't deserve from Black people, so I don't get it.
Okay, respect. I'm
sorry, that was a little long-winded.
No, I love it. I love it. That's what we do here. Okay. You right, you on it. Okay. From my point of view and conversations I've had with other people, a lot of it is the mindset that people were more so from Akibulan than Africa. Like, the history of the word Africa that, is written in black and white is that term was created, it's not that old of a term. And, black people were already in America prior to the establishment of the United States of America. So it's not so much as a connection. Well, and I'm not saying everybody. Some people can be like, she's wrong, she's not talking about me, and cool, I'm not talking about you. But some people are like more so rooted in America, the Americas, North and South America, than they are the United States of America. And it's like proving that, like, I was here before y'all came over here and started doing our paperwork in 1776. Take that somewhere else. We already had all this stuff going on prior to. And even then, like, even in that kind of conversation, like we were talking about with the hominids and things like that, you could still go back to the equator or go back to, Akabulan, where the oldest fossils, the hominid fossils were even found anyway. I think the oldest one over here is about like 20,000-30,000 years old compared to the ones over there that's like 4 million. So, that's my whole take on all of that. But like you said in your video, we are not a monolith. In my mindset, we've always been tribal. We're different, branches, but it doesn't take away from the fact that we all have common ancestors. And so there's just certain things that are embedded in our DNA, from mindset, behaviors, traumas. They're all transgenerational. And it seems like a lot of people utilize escapism from the transgenerational trauma. That is a trauma response. I'm just going to denounce all of this. It never happened. Not in my lineage, this, that, and the third. Like, everybody has their own way of, trying to cope. And like I say, I ain't trying to project my personal thing on anybody. I just pay attention to what people say, how they feel, and it is what it is. Absolutely. But I appreciate that breakdown, and how you spoke on it, because I think that that's a very important concept to come to at this point in time. I think that social media has created this facade that you need like millions of people, you need to save 7 billion people for you to have a movement, for you to make change, for you to have all these different things going on. And that's not the case at all. Like you said, I could have 20 people over here and then have 5 people over there, 3 people over here, this, that, and the third, and still have like a functional tribe, to make change, to do different things, to even just live in the reality that I see fit for me in my lineage. I think that, just kind of desensitizing a lot of the numbers and things like that social media is like building people's heads up with is necessary.
No, absolutely.
It is necessary. I want to fast forward to your newest project now. We done talked, went through a couple of them now. So your newest project is Agent Jesse Jackson.
It's Agent, real quick. It's Jesse Jackson just happened to be the second episode, but
it's just Agent. Okay,
it's just
got you.
Agent. Yeah, yeah. It's a whole series, and it's Agent. The first episode was actually Eldridge Cleaver, the story of Eldridge. First episode was the story of Eldridge Cleaver. The second episode I had to break down into two parts, which was Jesse Jackson, the heir apparent, part one, the King years, part two, the Chicago years. But go ahead. I just
Okay. It makes sense to me now because I was just like going through it. Okay, awesome. So, what sparked your interest in starting this series?
This is something that for years I wanted to do. Like this is something for years I've been thinking about doing and just haven't had the time to sit there and put it together and really approach it. And other things always came out. And then there might be reasons that made me not want to do it in the past. But this was something that, and a few months back, I just was like, it's time. I'm in the middle of stuff. I was looking for what's my next project I'm gonna do. And I was really looking into doing live film and getting into short films and things of that nature. I'm actually shooting the film on Sunday. So I'm trying to get back into shooting films, getting into that. And I was like, I haven't been working lately. I haven't done it. I ain't putting nothing out. And I said, I'm a filmmaker and filmmakers make films. So I went and looked and said, I got this on the shelf. Let me take this off the back burner and start cooking with this. And I put the first episode together. As I was putting it together, I called up a brother, Baba Amin, who provided me with the theme song. And I already knew the song. It was one of those situations where I was like, damn, that would be perfect for this. And so I called him up, or I hit him online, and he was like, take it. You get yours. And so definitely appreciate Baba Amin for that. And my man Donald did all of the beats. All of the beats that's my brother Donald. And it just came out. But that was the inspiration was Steve Coakley.
Okay.
The complete inspiration to even do a project like this goes back to Steve Coakley exposing the boule.
Okay. Awesome. So, what was your process to getting the research?
Also Carl Levance, who a lot of especially the brothers in the Nation of Islam, they don't really rock with him like that. But Carl Levance too, he wrote a couple of pieces, and following his format of research, when really he kind of left a lot of breadcrumbs for me to be able to go behind and say, oh, I could go and look in these files right here, or look in these files, or this is the part of the FBI files to go section and find stuff. So I have to really, really like Carl Levance, shout Carl Levance out for that, because regardless of what his mission was and why he was doing what he was doing, if he didn't do what he did, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing.
Respect.
But you was asking another question. I'm sorry, I just had to say that.
No, answer. I was just asking, what was your research process? What were the different, methods that you used to put this together?
It was knowing the story, right? Like knowing the story, and then going into the old stories. Like the thing that I used the most was New York Times, Washington Post, old newspaper articles. See, one of the keys in researching a lot of old events isn't just going on there and trying to AI Google search it, because you don't find it that way. What you got to do is you got to hit the certain phrases or certain things you're looking for in these old news articles. And these old news articles will then come up. And of course, they're not always easy to read, but this is where a lot of the story with the first half of the Jesse Jackson piece, I used a lot of even the second with the Chicago years, a lot of that was archived newspaper clippings, newspaper. I had to even pay for subscriptions to different, news publications so that I could get the archives from that. So that was one of the things. And then the FBI Information Act, they got you go there and look at the files, because a lot of stuff I'm talking about is dealing with FBI activity, FBI, confidential informants and things like that. So that's a lot of the places that I went as well. But it starts with knowing the story, and then, okay, what was going on around this time? Okay, what was happening? Who were the players involved? How did this happen? Okay, let me connect this dot, and then, because if you see the way I put it together, I don't tell you what it is. I show you and let you come to your own conclusion.
Mm-hmm. I really like the way you pieced it together. I really felt like I'm like watching kind of like the ID channel type situation with our people, made by our people. I'm like, yo, this is fire.
I grew up on that with my grandmother. You were talking about with your family watching the animal. I grew up with my grandmother watching like History Channel, A&E, and all of that. This is years ago, and I would sit there and watch all of that, and I remember she used to watch the Western documentaries, and they would have the voices with the like they would do quotes from people and imitate how they sounded and whatnot. And I always thought that was dope. And when I started getting into this type of work, I was like, I like to do some stuff like that. That's so dope to me. And documentaries is just, they're serious. It's like people take them serious. Sometimes more serious than they should, unfortunately, because I've seen some documentaries where this is all incorrect. But with that said, though, a good documentary, I love a good documentary. So I'm sitting there trying to put together documentary style work, and I'm looking at it like, okay, how would I like it though? Not that I don't like a lot of the documentaries I've seen, but what would I want to see? How would I want to see it? And that's how I came with it. And I've spent a whole day. I had to put everything on pause just to find the perfect image, just to have the perfect image to match what I'm saying, just to have the perfect clip.
Everything is perfectly put together. It's a beautiful piece. It's definitely something that should be played like in classrooms.
I
This
appreciate that.
is
I really
like
appreciate
that level of information. The way it's put together is really good. Um, Now we didn't talk about your triggers in the other two projects that I picked out. This one, is there anything that you had a mindset about, you had your thoughts about, and then throughout the research process of these the two that you've done so far, the two individuals you've done so far, did it change your thought on anything?
Well, this one right here, no. If anything, it made me realize how nefarious a lot of the intentions and what was going on with a lot of these movements and the people involved. Like, there's people now that I'm questioning that I never would have questioned before. There's people that I pretty much, I'm sure, wasn't right. I might not throw it out there because the evidence isn't strong enough, but time and place, and you happen to be there, and this don't add up. This don't add up. With the Eldridge Cleaver, that was the first one I did. And with Eldridge Cleaver, just a real quick, with Eldridge Cleaver, the story always didn't make sense to me from the first time I heard it. You had a brother who incites a group of Panthers to go out and have an ambush police 2 days after the the assassination of Martin Luther King. They go out there and have a 90-minute shootout. A 90-minute shootout where 2 police officers are injured. The reports don't say they were shot. It says 2 police officers were injured. 1 Panther is murdered. Right? So, I mean, I've been in the streets also. So I got a background that I was in the streets. A 90-minute shootout where nobody gets really shot. Nobody gets a 90. I don't know if you watched the show called The A-Team, but when I was a kid, there used to be this show called The A-Team, and they would have these fantastic shootouts. They used to come on NBC, And they would have these fantastic shootouts in every episode and no one ever got shot. This is exactly what we're talking about. That right there, just that right there. Just me, I call myself the pragmatic. I deal in practicality. The practical, that's not practical to me. Just that
For
right
90
there.
minutes is a long time
To have a shootout.
to
Right?
have a shootout.
Okay.
90 minutes is...
That was the first thing, though. That's just the beginning. Then the brother says, okay, he gets locked up for the crime, right? Because he ambushed police. He gets locked up and he's released by another judge. He's on parole when this happens. He gets locked up. Another judge says, no, you guys are treating him unfairly because he is an activist. While he gets out, waiting trial, he goes on a run, ends up in Cuba, ends up in France, or ends up in Africa, then ends up over in China, and then back to America, where he ends up getting time served in probation for his incident. So now this gets back to practically, now I'm asking myself, okay, we always thought the brother was suspect amongst the Panthers, but this is even more than I thought. Like, this is, he would seem like a whole international spy at this point.
Mm-hmm.
You're going from this nation to this nation, all these communist nations, and then you come back home where you ran from for ambushing police and you get probation. So, all right, now I know this, right? This is all that I know, but I don't know how to tie it up now. I don't know how to tell you. I don't know how to give you the evidence. So now that's what the project is. Now the project is, okay, I know this dude ain't no good. The story don't add up. But now let me go into the underbelly real quick and turn this up so you can see what's inside right now. And I had a lot of information. I dug and found a lot more information. But that's the whole basis of this project is more or less of, I know these dudes ain't right. I know Jesse ain't right. But if I just had this argument with you, and not you necessarily, but I'm just talking to you about how wrong Jesse is, I could tell you, yeah, he did this and he did. But if I break it down and show you his actions and activities and how they add up, and we all know math, so I'm giving you 2 + 2 + 2 + 2.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't come up with 8, that's on you at this point.
Agreed. The whole shooting scene where Martin Luther King was shot was always interesting to me. It just didn't make sense. And I was listening to your documentary, how you spoke on this entire time this man was being I don't know where my vocabulary has been going lately. He's been followed by the FBI this entire time, right? And now this particular day and time is the only particular day and time where suddenly the FBI, oh, we weren't watching him. We weren't even, and it's just like, oh, how convenient. And I just so happened to move to Memphis a few months ago. And I took my sons over to the area, the hotel on the balcony where he was standing at, and to look, and I didn't even say anything. It was my 11-year-old. Okay. My 11-year-old looked at it and was like, well, how did it happen like this? Because we watch, I homeschool my kids.
Right.
So, I've definitely talked about Martin Luther King Jr. Our friend Martin was the last film that we had watched before we had went over there. So for him to see it in person after watching this movie, he was like, wait, that doesn't make sense. How did, how did he get shot like this from standing there? And what was this, and this? And I'm like, I don't have the answers, and it's just like certain conversations. I get kind of skeptical, like, is this too soon? But, a lot of that just never made sense to me. And I did, pinpoint Jesse Jackson, but also other people that was in his circle as well. We're kind of like, it's a whole group of y'all. What was going on?
Yeah, he was surrounded by him.
Open.
He was surrounded.
Yeah.
He was completely surrounded. Completely. There was nothing he could do. And he, I'm going to do another piece just speaking on Martin Luther King and his death. It's gonna be a while, but I'm gonna do a whole piece just focused on that because there's so much. You asked me earlier about researching things and my mind being changed or coming up with information that really just, changes or, my preconception. And Martin Luther King, you know, in my research, the newfound respect that I have got for Martin Luther King. And I feel bad because in the Black Power, the especially with the hardcore pro black nationalist side, Martin Luther King don't get a lot of respect. He don't get the respect that he should have, and I understand why. Like, I definitely understand why. But when you look into what he was up against and the decisions that he decided to make at the end, he knew what it was. He knew he knew what was coming. And most people who criticize Martin Luther King don't got that in them.
Agreed.
And so
there was a lot of conversations he had, and he would come out after the conversation and have all these cameras and microphones in his face, and you could just tell by his candor and how he would drag out his words and stuff. He was trying to find the words to say, what was just spoken about without saying it. And then also without letting the people he was talking to know that he was, saying it. So it was just like a lot. You could tell it was always a lot going on in his head at one time, trying to inform the people, but also like stay safe and keep the people safe. Y'all don't realize how much danger I could put y'all in, by just being all out and about. So I think that would be an awesome piece, especially given, how well you put pieces together. I was going to ask you, like, who would be the next person that you would put in this series?
Well, the next person I got coming is Warith Muhammad. That's the next episode. It'll be out in a couple of days. I was trying to get it done. I just didn't have time to get it done, but I was trying to have it done already. But the next piece will be on the son of Elijah Muhammad, Warith Muhammad. So, that one is going to be, that one is work right there. That one is work right there.
Why do you say that? Give me a synopsis, please.
Well, you're talking about, one second. Shut this door. I have to shut this door. Well, all right. We're talking about the son of Elijah Muhammad. And he was like, we're talking about the prodigal son of Elijah Muhammad. And Malcolm X has to be talked about in this story. You got to talk about Louis Farrakhan in this story. These are polarizing figures. These are controversial.
Oh, you went mute.
Yeah. Am I back?
Yeah,
I'm good? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So all of these different figures are going to be mentioned. And integrity is important to me, but I'm not here to sugarcoat, and I'm not here to polish nobody's heroes. If there's dirt there, I'm gonna show the dirt. It's just that simple. I'm not here to try to bash anybody. I'm not here to try to ruin anybody. But we, moving forward, as a people, have to know what we should have been looking at back then. And if we don't know what to look for, we're going to follow the same mistakes back then. There's not a movement that Black people haven't had that have not became warehouses for police.
Yes.
Not one.
Agreed.
And so I'm going to show this, and I want to show that none of these movements was exempt. The first episode was on Eldridge Cleaver, but the truth is I could have stayed amongst the ranks of the Panthers alone. I didn't have to go. I could have just stayed in the Panthers party and created the whole series just out of that. Or the Nation of Islam, for that matter. So, but I want to go all over the place, though. I don't want to pick on nobody.
Mm-hmm.
I want to show what it is across the board. If you watch the series and you look at the intro, that gives you a pretty good idea of who you're going to be seeing episodes about. For the most part, there might be like one person, maybe two in the intro that's not going to get their own episode. But if you watch the intro, you could see everybody in the intro. They got something coming.
Okay. Okay, I love this. So when we're using, all right, so in one of, I want to say it was to Jesse Jackson when you talked about your definition of agent. And so like when you're utilizing this series, are you picking people that you consider to be agents, or what's your process of picking the people that you're gonna put in these episodes?
You said it right. I'm picking the
I
people
said it
that,
right? Okay.
yeah, you said it right. I'm picking people that, they wasn't right, and I'm gonna show you why they wasn't right, and you can take it and do what you want with it.
Okay.
And
Okay.
there's different types of agents, which is why I gave the definition of agent. I do it in each episode because there are different type of agents, and every agent doesn't have a badge. Every agent wasn't at the police academy,
Mm-hmm.
and every agent, its intentions could be different. Like at the very end of the Jesse Jackson part 2, I let it be known, like there's which if what category does he fall into? Because there's different type of agents. Does he fall into any, or he might not fall into any of them? Because it's easy to criticize all of these people from my seat. It's easy to be in this chair right here, getting on this computer and criticize anybody from back then and what the mistakes they might have had, the decisions they might have made that I don't agree with, or whatever the case may be. But we gotta differentiate a miscalculated decision or a decision we don't agree with nefarious intentions.
Hmm. Okay. So like, all right, so we've been talking about like, for those that's coming in and out, we've been talking about your different film projects, and we went from the establishment of, you know, the establishment of civilization. We've gotten into, the different facet from FBA to Pan-Africanism and, your agent series. And to get into the agent series, and you're dissecting these different people that were portrayed as upstanding leaders, regardless, that's how they're being portrayed to us, and knowing that something isn't right with them. Now, like you said, I can't sit here from my chair and my experiences and say what I would or wouldn't do. However, what would your call to action be to people, like, not necessarily saying don't do what he did, but like for someone to be upstanding, and like you said, every time we have a movement, it gets infiltrated. It's easily infiltrated. What would you do? Or how would you establish things? How would you, just thinking of like a utopic kind of way to create something for our people, like what would be your approach?
I really wish I had the answers of what I believe would truly, truly fix everything, or what would be the absolute thing that worked. But I'm looking at, because as I'm doing this, it's like I'm sitting down with the people, and it's like I'm sitting down saying, we got to figure this out together.
Yeah.
But with that said, though, I am a solution orientated person. I don't like to just show you the crazy mess and then act like there's no way to clean it up, like we're just hopeless. So
Mm-hmm.
with that said, um, the problem is these organizations, and like Dr. Khalid said, every movement has a 5%. Every movement has an 85%. Every movement has a 10%. So understanding the roles of these people and understanding that if it's only going to be 5%, then that we need to start thinking clandestine. We need to start letting the idea spread. We don't. What you said earlier is how I feel when you was talking about trying to get all these people on board. We actually don't need all of these people on board, and that's part of the problem. Having all of these people on board create issues. Having everybody connected creates issues. Everybody doesn't need to be connected. What you got going on in Baltimore, what I got going on in Philly, what they got going on in Harlem, if it's on the same page, it doesn't have to be connected. We don't have to be sharing arteries, because when that artery gets cut, we all bleed out. So I think that that's one of the things that we need to look at. Look at who's like-minded with you. Look at who's on the same page as you. 10 families in 100 years. Imagine what that can accomplish on its own. So if we're thinking like that, you mentioned the tribe earlier. You said, you get 20 people. I mean, that's the way we got to be thinking. We got to look at what we got and utilize the resources that we got and use that as separation. You talk about homeschooling your children. That's part of the separation process, because if you're not separating, then when they ship sinks, if you don't have if you on the ship, you sinking with it. There's no advance or bust about it. And so that's looking at how to separate from the ship, and just coming to the realization that everybody before us was selling us out, and that's what they was here to do. They was here to sell us out. So how do we not sell out? How do we not get sold out again? How do we not fall for these grifters out here who creating all of these overnight movements, who are telling you that you're really from someplace, or that you're really this people, because you're lost, you're depressed, you have a low self-esteem. So you almost want to believe anything that's going to make you feel good. Don't worry about them Africans. You're not one of them. You know you came from here. But when you listen, and if you're being practical, then the story should actually make you feel even weaker. It should make you feel even dumber. And I'm not to sit there and say that some of us aren't indigenous. No, I'm not even arguing that. My argument to saying is that, if this was your house, it's pretty bad.
I was gonna say, like, we got home court advantage.
Exactly. I mean, Vietnam, America went into their house. Look what happened. Exactly. Korea, America went into their house. Look what happened. Afghanistan, Russia went into their house. Look what happened. Going into someone's house is a different story. We talk about, I just wanted to touch on this real quick, but we talked about Black people being indigenous to North America. Now, Honorable Elijah Muhammad said Black folks went everywhere. I believe this. We know every inch of this planet. We've been everywhere. I truly believe this. Van Sertima, they came before Columbus, which was showing you evidence of African presence in North America before Columbus. Cool. Right. But now if I'm looking at science and I'm being practical, and I go over to South America, I've been to Mexico, and I've been all throughout America. And if I show you a map of the highest concentration of Black people in North America and South America, do you know where you're going to find them? You're going to find them in the Northeast, the South, especially the Southeast, and you're going to find them where slavery was the most prevalent, where slave ships were dropped off at, but you're not going to find them in the middle of the country in the most remote places. You're going to find the least Black people in the most remote places in both Americas, because they are not indigenous to the Americas in the form that people want to believe. Mm-hmm. Your grandmother, I understand. My grandmama said the same thing, but guess what? My grandmama couldn't tell me no indigenous words, though. She couldn't tell me the indigenous dish that they used to eat. And it's not a knock on my grandmama, because all our grandmama said that. We Cherokee, right, boy? But it's okay. Nobody wants to be African.
Of knowing timelines. I think when people speak about history, they speak in circles. Rather, I know time is not linear when you get into the metaphysical realm, but when we're talking about a timeline, we have to be speaking in a timeline. If you want to talk about us being, recognized modern, the 5 modern tribes, okay, cool, yeah, I could get with that. But once you get like further and further back, like we're talking about like hundreds of thousands of years ago, we're not talking about the 1400s. You know what I'm saying? Those are 2 different conversations. And then we get into 2 different, origin stories there, one leading to the other one eventually. But like I was saying, I think it's like the mindset of when people think about African culture today and, those different things, they just feel that disconnect. And, again, that still comes back to the conversation of timeline, of culture, of society, of our evolution. as a people, movement, what the environment was doing. It's a lot of elements to that, you know. And I think when a lot of people, certain people tell that story, I think I would like to think, and with some people I know for certain, they're just saying, "Hey, I was here before 1776. Don't play in my face." You know, I was here before y'all came over here and y'all slapped y'all flag into the ground and started chatting. You know,
And I mean, that's the like you just said something. We're talking history, right? So 17, whatever, right? Um, but a good 200 years before that, you had the Dutch, you had the Spaniards. So I mean, who history are we starting with? Whose arrival are we talking about? You know,
yeah,
before America, you know, it's not like they wasn't over here already. So it's it's one of them situations where it's like if you understand history and like with the Spaniards, when the Spaniards came to America, they actually had black conquistadors with them. They were actually
right,
African conquistadors who came with them on their side. Then they also had African slaves who came with them, and a lot of them on one journey over here escaped and ended up in the Carolinas. You had all types of maroons. And this is before the Brits came and established a colony. So when people say, yeah, black people, of course, even if, and I'm not talking about, you know, not being here before that. I'm just saying the fact that we can tie that in. We can tie in the black people that came here even with Europeans and established, you know, established stuff over here. Like it wasn't like they just a couple of them came. They came and they did their thing to the point where you had Maroons all up and down the East Coast of North America joining different indigenous tribes
right.
and creating new tribes just off of the banding together and sharing of culture. When people talk about the Seminoles, the Seminoles, that wasn't a necessarily a tribe of a people. That was a confederation basically of a bunch of different people who came together. You had blacks, you had Indians, and they shared that common, that it was a threat really. They was actually fighting against, it was a threat that created the Seminoles. If we want to get technical.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. And I think that that's some clarification that needs to happen towards our people a lot more. It's kind of like a balled up piece of thread, you know, yarn in people's minds, and it just needs to be pulled out and straightened out. Because I noticed, like when I'm having conversations with people, they start using terms out of context of like the history timestamp they're chatting about, and it's like if we're gonna have the conversation, you got to know about the social and environmental climate of the area you're trying to, you know, communicate about, and then you know bring it up.
But you know, you talked about linear time, and
Mhm.
what experience do we have but experiencing time in linear in the linear way? Like, what other way do we know? Not this. Now, I understand what you were saying, but what
Yeah.
other way do we know? Once we start talking about things that we haven't observed,
Mhm.
that's foolish. And I don't mean talking about the existence of them. I'm talking about speaking on them like we know what they are and we sat there and been in them and you know like when did you experience time that wasn't linear?
Exactly.
We are living out a whole timeline right now. So when people start talking things that go outside of our experience, I'm not quick to say you know it's not possible, but it's like okay, what's the purpose now? Is this gonna free us? Is this gonna give us food, clothing, and shelter? Is this going to make us a stronger community?
And yeah, that's honestly like what it all boils down to. You know, I am a part of the Moorish Science Temple, and you know getting into the science of the Moors and how they were over here, things like that, getting into it on a you know the religious standpoint with the Circle Seven, and also trying to get into it with the law and things like that aspect of it. It's like how are we applying the knowledge of who we are and where we're from to free our people? Or are we just sitting in this and we just like the knowledge of it, you know?
Right. I mean, because it's based on, like, we're dealing with grifting. We're dealing with grifters. I mean, I hate to say it. I'm talking overall. So we're gonna get a bunch of talk, and we're gonna get a bunch of, give me this so that I can give you this. And that's the stuff that's in the way right now. The things that, in my opinion, we need to focus on is our family. We need to focus on rebuilding and restructuring our family so that we sit at the table as families. Once we can do that, once we can sit at the table as families, then the table can become a nation. And that's the problem. We are not coming together as families, and we are creating families that aren't structured and don't have a solid foundation. We are creating families that every day don't sit down and eat together at the end of the night, or not necessarily end of the night, but don't sit down and break bread together. Aren't communal. We're creating families that don't know each other. We're creating families that don't like each other. And we're worrying about we're worried about our neighbors, and we're worried about, our friends that we call our brothers, but we're not worried about our family, who we come home to, our destruction. And that right there is, to me, the key. And the fact that we don't even focus on that as a whole, that's not even something that we really understand. Without that, that's the backbone, that's the foundation. And without that, all this talk, all these organizations, whether it be the Nation of Islam, whether it be the gods, the herbs, the Moorish Science Temple, whatever it is, if there aren't families that build these organizations or build these movements, what are they standing
on? Right. Because the sense of loyalty towards family is a lot different. Even if, like, I give example, me and my sister go at it all the time, but can't nobody go at my sister, and I know can't nobody come at me. And I think that's a lot different than somebody that, I met you through a movement, you are, we're in alignment mentally, but then one day we go at it, or, I think
what happens when you evolve in your thinking, or they go this way? Now the friendship changes because the friendship was based on a cause, it wasn't based on I want to say love, but it wasn't based on that. It wasn't like it wasn't based on the emotional beneficial factor that people share. Like, I got friends that I've been friends with going back since 2nd and 3rd grade, and they not on the page that I'm on. But I trust them more than somebody that I met who can quote anything Garvey said or Malcolm X or whatever, because I know when it gets thick where they at with it. I know what they about, and I know where their heart is at. So, I definitely, I definitely think family, and it's family over everything. And don't get me wrong, I do believe in the building of the family into the tribe. Like, I do believe that, but I think that without the family, there is no tribe. How do you skip the family part? Like, how do you jump past that? Like, how?
I agree, because that's what the tribes were made out of. They were families that came together because people got married, people had kids. Like, it literally was, conglomerate of nuclear families, extended families that just, they had a piece of land and they lived on it together.
Exactly. The tribe, it facilitates the family. Now, you have the families that start, and now the example is set, and now this is what it is. You have societies where, that the children knew I was going to have to marry her. He knew this. My man knew at 6. So at 6 years old, he was being introduced to her and being prepared to take care of her when they turn whatever 16 or whatever. But he's being prepared for this. He's being prepared to understand who she is. She's being prepared to understand who he is and the role that they're supposed to play. None of this exists. And if you bring this type of thinking up, it's considered oppressive. But it worked. It made sure that that structure was kept together because that structure was based on the survival of the family or of the tribe, which becomes of the nation.
Yep. We can't get to the nation if we ain't got the families together to set the roots of it all.
Exactly.
I definitely agree with you on that.
And these movements attract the broken family. It attracts those who don't have that because now they're looking for that and they're looking to join that and they're looking to have that.
Right. It's like we were saying before, like being the black sheep of the family. A lot of these organizations target the black sheep of the family, like, oh, it's just you by yourself, this, that, and the third. And it's like, how strong is that? Now, going back to my animal planet, there are animals that kind of get pushed out of they pack, like lions, particularly. Sometimes certain, lions get pushed out and they kind of create their own pack together. However, they're way more aggressive. They have like a certain kind of energy to them that's way different than those that, are, were always accepted by the pack. So, that's a whole nother conversation in the realms of like energy and
they follow the laws of nature. They follow nature in their habitat. If you take a lion or like an elephant, you put him in a circus and he's on top of a ball, them elephants, them elephants from the wild, man, they'll kill that boy if they got their hands on him, seeing that. Because that ain't them. And that ain't what they do. And I'm saying that to say, in your habitat, this goes back to the kids. Why are you doing this? Because the kids aren't in their habitat. See, the animals, they naturally get to eat for the most part. They naturally get to eat what they're supposed to be eating, what's conducive to them and what helps them grow. Because they know, they have an innate ability to understand and know, yeah, there's grass over here, there's these wheats over here, okay, I gotta go rip this gazelle real quick. But this is they know that, and they know that this is what keeps them them. But when you take that lion and you put him in a circus and he's jumping up through hoops eating peanuts, that's not him. And so he's not gonna act like him because he don't jump through loops for nobody. Right. Not the lion, but because he's not him, and these are our children. Our children ain't them. Because they out here, they the red 40 babies and the yellow 5 babies and the sugar crack kids, and then they being assaulted by the internet. They get on TV and they watching the TV and the internet is just completely assaulting them. How can they be then? There's nothing natural about everything that they doing. There's nothing natural. They go online, play a video game, they wipe out a whole village of people. How they them? So then we see them, it's like, man, why are you doing what you're doing? Because they wired. It's not even them. It's the wiring. It's the parasites. It's everything else.
Yeah, I definitely said that once. Noticing, paying attention to how these kids behave throughout the day. I'm like, these kids are full of parasites, and they need to be detoxed. You could tell. And their behaviors and their cravings, eating Cheetos and Doritos at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning.
I see it all the time. I see kids eat ice cream for breakfast. Mm-hmm. I couldn't even do that, not out of not being able to, but there's no way I would ever have woken up as a child. And now as a grown man, there's no way I could wake up and say, I'm hungry, I want ice cream. Mm-hmm. Because that wasn't there. That wasn't there for that. I never had a reference of having my appetite, with ice cream fixing my appetite. See, I don't got no vocab either, so it wasn't just you.
Yeah, like I was like, bro, where are my words going? I don't know where they're going. I know how to communicate. But I definitely agree with you saying about us not being in our natural habitat, us not being in our natural like flow, and it does cause disrupt in our behaviors as individuals, our mindset, and things of that nature. I really enjoyed this talk. This was very insightful. And I can't find the words right now to truly convey how impressed I am with the way you put your knowledge together in your pieces. I can't wait to share them to my dad because that's who I share this kind of information with. That's who I have these conversations with. And I think that what you're doing is amazing. It's important. I definitely will be sharing to so many other people as well what it is that you do, and I'm very excited about your next project. I look forward to learning more, guys. I don't know too much about Elijah Muhammad's son, I won't lie to you, so I very much look forward to listening to
A
that.
lot of people don't. Don't worry. A lot of people don't. He had to be after Jesse Jackson so that I can use Jesse Jackson to get people to pay attention to him.
Okay. I see. Okay, cool. As I love to learn though. I love learning about us and our people, especially during that period of time. And even before then, when we had, the roundabout that period of time where we had Marcus Garvey, Noble Drew Ali, and Elijah Muhammad, establishing, what they did and creating such at this point, a lot of their movements seem immortal to me. Being present in this space and time, they're still here. Um, but I think that's all interesting, especially seeing how they all, were deceased. Noble Drew Ali is a big one for me though, because he was like he had got arrested, then came home and passed. It just seems like a pattern with our leaders, our prominent people in our history. Like you said, whenever we have like a movement is heavily infiltrated, it becomes a warehouse for the FBI, and it's just like, when does it end? When does it stop? Because I think that's a major factor that prevents our people from wanting to regather and do and like rebuild Black Wall Street like how it was, like not just chatting about it on the internet and buying clothes and jewelry from each other, but we had doctor offices, we had schools, we had banks. The banks is a big one. We we're in the process of declaring states. Like, so it's just, at what point do we say, okay, let's do this again, or like what are we going to do, I always think about our children. I think about our children a lot because they're our future, and it's just like, what kind of world are we leaving them to live in and to sort out, and why isn't it important to us? Why isn't it a priority? Why is it always, well, I gotta go through these bills, and I gotta go to work, and I gotta go to the club, and I gotta do these things, but it's like being a mother and then having younger siblings and stuff like that, and then being a teacher and all these different things, just like, well, what are we doing? What are we doing to these kids? What are we doing for these kids? I think we losing sight of what's really important because we're too busy calling nuances distractions, but what's the real distraction? Because we won't even spend that much time on that stuff. You know what I'm saying? What are we spending 40, 80 hours a week doing instead of paying attention to these kids, the environment we're leaving them in and stuff. So my last, I guess, to wrap this up, what is do you have any, now you don't really want to tell people what to do or anything like that, but like, what is your message to your audience? What do you want to leave imprinted upon them, you know in the conversation of, what kind of world are we leaving, what kind of world are we living in? Because the women in my family, they look to be at least 100. I ain't even halfway there yet, you know what I'm saying? So it's like I got time too. So the words, What is the call? What is one of the call to actions, or an ideal, or just like a message that you want to leave behind?
It's really simple. Consideration is at an all-time low, and
Mm-hmm.
when I say that, I mean holistically. We are a very inconsiderate people, and we don't consider what we eat. We don't consider what we're watching. We don't consider what we say. And I gotta put myself in that as well at times. We are not a considerate people, and we need to have more consideration. People be like, you're inconsiderate, or you're not. That's so deeper than just not considering someone's feelings or someone's thoughts. It's so many things we don't consider when we out here moving around. And I think that because we don't consider so many things and we're so inconsiderate, it makes us it makes us ill towards our own brothers and sisters a lot of times. We don't allow ourselves to disagree. We don't allow ourselves to have different opinions or come to a different conclusion, because every last one of us are standing in our own unique place and position, which gives us our own unique point of view. Every last one of us have our own unique point of view from where we're seeing everything from. And we must respect that. I can disagree with you, and I can approach you about your disagreements with the respect that you came to your conclusion from your point of views, from your experiences, from your observations. So I want to know, what experiences gave you that point of view? What observations made you think that? Because my observations tell me this, and maybe we can work like that. But consideration, consider. That may sound very simple to people. That may sound like, what are you talking? But that's my message. We need to be considerate. Period. We don't consider things.
I agree. I agree. It is very deep how much we don't consider, especially given to like how we carry ourselves moment by moment.
Yeah, like I can't say that we're our worst enemy, because we didn't put ourselves in the position we're in. We may have participated in the oppression of our people, and that's the only way you can oppress a people, is if you get them to participate in their own oppression. But I'm not going to say we're our worst enemy, because we've seen Black Wall Street. We've seen what they do. We know the type of things that when we build something, the Tuskegee experiment, that happened legally up until 1977. I was born in 1978. Black women were legally being medically practiced sterilization. Secret sterilization on Black women was going on up until 1977. And that's just what the reports are saying. And again, I was born in 78. So my mother could have been a victim of that. This isn't something that happened in the 1800s, So know what we up against. And knowing what we up against is how we should move. Look at what happened in the past. Let the message be the message, but the messenger can't be the warrior. The messenger can't be the people actually implementing the stuff, because the messenger, they're gonna whack him. The messenger has to take them shots, because that's why he's giving the message. They're gonna whack the messenger, and whatever movement the messenger got is gonna be all police. You can't be both. You can't be the vanguard and actually in the streets making it happen. It doesn't work that way. And so if you want to be serious, you can't be the Black Panther Party. You have to be the BLA if you're actually looking to get stuff done. Because the Black Panther Party, that's the ideology. That's the philosophy. But the BLA, that's the army. And there's no official membership. There's nothing to sign. it's work to do. Get the work done, period. Because me talking to you about the work compromises the work now. Because the work that needs to be done can't be talked about.
I hear you. I definitely hear you. Um, you let us know how we can support what you're doing, how we can stay in alignment with what you got going on, your different social media handles and things like that.
Yeah, you could I'm on YouTube. No C in Black, so you could just check out me on YouTube. Just type in Che Blak, and I'm gonna pop up. You know,
No C, y'all, because I definitely the initial
everybody
thought was
does.
like CK.
Everybody does. So it's all good. But there's no C in Black. So look me up, and you'll definitely. I'm gonna come up because I'm Che Blak, no C. That's how you can find me on YouTube. Pragmatic_ Che Blak on Instagram. I'm on Instagram. I do videos. Sometimes I sit and just talk about like the FBA stuff like that, different things going on.
Okay.
So yeah, you can check me out there, and that's pretty much it. That's the two places that y'all can find me at. And my work, just go on YouTube. Right now, I'm in them YouTube streets right now. Right now I'm running them YouTube streets. And the irony of it is I'm constantly criticizing YouTube scholarship. I'm constantly criticizing it. Here I am on YouTube, but I'm not also claiming to be a scholar either.
I see. And I get that. I just like to learn, and I like to share what I learn when I learn it. And that's also what I like that you do too. When you're reading information, you do take the time out to say, see, look, this is what I'm reading, and read it with me. And what that say up there, and what this word say. So y'all don't think I'm just pulling this stuff out my butt. Okay, cool. I like that you do that. Um, that's also really important to in comparison to somebody who just sits there and just be chatting and when you ask them what your source is so that I can look, not that it's not always coming from a challenging space. Sometimes it's like I want to read it with you, or I want to look too and see, with my own eyes. And it's like, oh, I can't tell you, well, I don't know, or go Google it, look it up yourself,
But
I
you know
do
what?
like that. Yeah.
This is funny. Real quick, I'm gonna keep it quick. I'm looking at it like this. I feel like I'm a prosecutor, right? And I'm putting these jokers on trial. And you know how they do. This is my closing argument. I break it down. I put them on trial. I break them down, and then I give my closing argument at the end of the episode. That's how I feel. I feel like when I go out there, when I'm actually doing the work, the style. I guess that's how I should have said it. I line you up. I'm lining you up the whole episode. I'm lining you up, and then at the end, here it comes, and I drop it. So, that's how I look at it. I feel like we in court. And y'all are the jurors. I'm letting you come up with the verdict. You pick the verdict. I'm just gonna present the evidence and show you how guilty these jokers is.
Respect. I take it. I definitely and appreciate you being up here. You're more than welcome to return. If you want to talk about another project, I'll definitely be doing my homework and watching these videos. You want to come back and do like an aftermath watch, whatever. This is.
Yeah, I would love to. I definitely have fun. I'll be nervous just coming and talking. I'm not a talker like that. When I'm by myself, when I'm doing video, I talk crazy, but I'm not. So I definitely have fun. This was dope. And that was your music in the beginning. That was dope.
Yeah,
That
thank
was
you.
dope. So yeah, hopefully maybe in the future we do some work together. I'm a video, I'm visual. So and then I'm always doing projects that good music in the projects always help. So you know.
Oh yeah, listen, I love it. I'm here for it. I'd love to do like some music in a line of one of your parties. That would be an honor. And it's been an honor to have you up here and to say that I got to have a conversation with someone is who does what you do is cool. I don't take any of my energy exchanges or any of these experiences for granted. I feel like I'm meeting like historical leaders of today, like pillars of our community. So this is it's really cool. It means a lot to me that you came here and yeah, I ain't gonna hold you too much longer because I have you up here forever, for real, for real.
It's all good. I enjoyed myself. This was fun. I
This was
definitely
fun.
enjoyed myself.
Thank you, thank you.
I appreciate you having me on here.
All right, y'all. For those of you guys who just came in, gotta rewind to the beginning. I had an amazing conversation with Che Blak. Y'all make sure y'all follow him on Instagram, Facebook. Hop on YouTube, check out his videos. He has some amazing documentaries, research projects put together, talking about the establishment of civilization, talking about Pan Africanism, and then his Agent series is amazing, very well put together. I highly suggest y'all go check that out. I'll be sharing it, I'll be playing it, I'll be inboxing some of y'all personally, like, did you watch it yet? Let's talk about it. Like, y'all already know how Sunshine does. And again, if you guys would like to be a guest on Cosmic Nobody's Conversation, you already know to message me, right? Okay. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. It's all the same. Sunshine Monet L. Reach out. I would love to have you guys up here. And I'm gonna let y'all go. Happy Thursday. Happy day of 5. Today is the day of power. Knowledge is power. We had an amazing conversation today on knowledge and how to empower yourself with the knowledge. Oh, I love divine alignments with numerology. We love it here. All right, I'm gonna let y'all go. Peace, peace, y'all.